Best of r/entitled parents episode 50. Hey guys, I have another story for you. So I'm in college right now until next January. I came home for 2 weeks during Christmas break hoping to see my family before I went back to school 4.5 hours away. I arrived back home on the 20th of December, 5 days before Christmas Day. Not once had my father tried to see me before then. I wanted to see my grandparents, my dad's parents, before Christmas. I went over and thought about texting my father about coming over to see me real quick. He said that he would. I had reminded him I had to leave at 3 because I had work at 4. He had said alright. I waited and waited, but soon enough it was 3 and my mom was outside ready to pick me up. She had later told me that he texted her to tell me he was busy. Now Christmas Day, after we finished going to my mom's parents, we went to my dad's parents for brunch like we do every year. After about 40 minutes he comes in the door with EW, entitled whale, to drop off extra chairs for brunch. He came over to me and said, "Merry Christmas, sweetie." Now understand my tone for a bit. I was not mean or dismissive. I was upset and disappointed to the point where I was on the verge of tears. I said, "I wish I could have seen you before Christmas." He literally huffs and finishes what he was doing and leaves with EW. I cry at this point, not knowing if I said anything wrong or even if I did. So we were supposed to start at 2ish so my great grandparents could drive home safely instead of in the dark. We decided that we would wait for my dad's family to arrive. At about 3:30 they finally show and we could pray and eat. After brunch, I helped my grandfather take down a table in the living room so we could open presents. I grabbed the table and EW was right there watching me, then turned to my father and not so quietly said, "Your children are so disrespectful and I don't wanna be here. Let's go." I stiffen, fully aware of what I heard. I start to tear up as we place the table in another room. After we put it down I started to cry until I composed myself and went back into the living room. Thankfully my father was still there. I first handed out my presents. I drew a cartoon character they liked, then wrote a note and folded it into a heart origami. After the presents were passed out she glared at me and mumbled something. Later my sister told me she was complaining about me not getting anything for her or her children. After Christmas, I texted my father and asked if we could go out to eat and that I would pay for it. He said he would. So we went out and he tried to make small talk while I tried to direct the convo about how I haven't seen him for months and asking why he didn't visit me at all. He always redirected the convo. After dinner he was looking around the restaurant until I grabbed the device to pay for dinner. Then he looked at me and smiled. The feeling that I have to pay for my dad in order to see him crushed my heart. The last time I saw him was when I was leaving to come back to school New Year's Day for about 5 minutes before I left. Sorry for this being long, but I needed to vent. I'm starting to believe I'm a bad daughter even though my mom keeps telling me I'm not. Edit. Thank you all for your support. I am seeing a therapist to help with what's going on. Your words are making my night better. Thank you. Next. I had this on r/entitled redditors because I didn't have enough karma and here it is now. Backstory. For the longest time, I, 18F, have always wanted to go to med school in Germany and live in there, mostly to get away from her, and she is against it. I guess it's because my awesome sister married a guy who grew up in a rural part of Florida and he's freaking amazing. She doesn't like him that I'm her last daughter in the house. Anyway, onto the story. My mom, an entitled piece of artwork. Me. Whatever dad, the light of my life. Me. Writing down plans for my future, which happens to be based in Germany. Mom. Germany? Why would you go there? Me. I want to live there and we have family friends who do work over there. And besides, I'm learning German. Mom. No. Germany is only nice to visit, not live. Your autism will make you return. I have Asperger's syndrome and it is on the autism spectrum. I have no shame for it, but mom uses it as if I can't live on my own. Me. It's never held me back. Dad, Karen, leave her alone. I'm sure family friends would love to have OP in Germany. Mom, why are you supporting her on this? She won't handle Germany, especially med school in German. She won't understand anything. Me. Mom, I am learning German. Remember? I don't mind doing university here for a year or 2, but eventually, I am going to Germany. Dad, OP, you can do whatever you want as long as you aren't stupid. Karen, leave her be. Mom, no. She's my daughter and she has to do as I say. In that sugary sweet voice, Germany is too much for you to handle. Trust me, I've been there. It is nice to visit, but not live. Me, not falling for that BS. Well, if it's nice to visit, then you'll at least have an excuse to go to Stuttgart. Mom, frustrated, scream and stomps to her room like a child. Dad and I shrug it off because this wasn't the first time she tried this. My dad, a freaking awesome man, said he'd support me no matter where I go. When I told him I wanted to live in Germany, he said move near Stuttgart. I always wanted an excuse to add to my nutcracker collection. Of course I know he's joking about only focusing on nutcrackers, but I wouldn't have minded if that was his only intention. Thank you. Next. Okay, this is a short one. Honesty. One of the least annoying things my mother does to me. So every time I make food or buy food for myself, my mom always wants some of it. This is why I call her a picker. She will always want something of your eating, complain if you say no, and call me a brat / don't like sharing. If I am cooking food, she will say, you are cooking my food. She will also bring up times where I stole her food from months to years to justify. Here comes the kicker though, every time I give her some of my food she will complain about not getting a good pick, or, if she eats, bitches about how it isn't good. I always say, then why would eat something you don't like? She says nothing to this. My mother hates admitting when she is wrong and will do mental backflips to cover her ass if she fucks up. It's really fucking annoying. What blows my mind, me and my brother take ownership of our fuck ups, not her though. I got another story where she nearly fucks my college career over her fucking car. Sorry if this was short, but I feel many people have to put up with EPs crying for free shit and then complaining when it isn't what they want. Thank you. Next. For those who have seen my story about my grandfather from a while ago, this was on the same trip to Disney World. As always, EM, entitled Mother. EK1, entitled Kid 1, around 3 years old, did not communicate. EK2, entitled Kid 2, around 5-6 years old, spoke but only to his father, could not hear. F. Father, was not entitled. Disney employee. Background. My brother and I, who were younger but not so young, were waiting online to get one of those builder lightsabers at Disney World. I have no clue if they still do them, but it was near the very popular attraction with Darth Vader and the stormtroopers. The line stretched out of the store and into the sidewalk a little bit. My brother and I were waiting in line with my father for the lightsabers. The store was open with no doors in the entrance and there was a vomit all over the floor at the start of the store, with some employees guarding it with their life, steering people away. There was a family in front of us in the line who had parked their stroller across the pathway, just out of arm's reach. EK1 starts to throw up, I'm assuming because he saw the vomit in the store. EM screams, my baby is sick, move. She then grabs EK1 and drags him over to the stroller and just straps him in and leaves him there. EK2 starts crying and complaining to father. EF, I'm sorry EK2, we have to go if EK1 is sick. We cannot wait in this line any longer. This prompted EM to start charging to the front of the line, which he then grabbed an employee helping kids build lightsabers and brought them out towards EK1. EM, can't you see he's sick? Can we just get in there quickly? I'm sorry, I cannot let you cut, nor can I let you in the store if he has been vomiting in the last few minutes. There is already a big mess and we cannot allow for any more, or else we need to close the store. At this point more employees approached the scene of EK1's vomit and started to cone it off and stop people from walking in it. The line was moved further up to avoid the vomit. EM, but you have to let us get some. It is not our fault. You made him sick by not cleaning up the other vomit. Please mom, I am just trying to keep the situation calm and make sure everyone leaves happy, but we cannot allow your vomiting child in the store. At this point EK2 was crying and screaming at the same time, with F trying to calm down EM. Finally, EM got calmed down and she stormed away angrily and quickly yelled about how stupid and incompetent the employees were at Disney. And they eventually did close the store much earlier than usual, as someone else vomited after seeing both of the earlier messes, and we never got our lightsabers. Thank you. Next. Sorry if I mess up or anything, this is my first post and I am on mobile TL. DR at bottom brothers. Cast, me epic gamer EM my mom, and that's basically it, lol. Okay, so it was a Sunday and your boy is a faithful Christian, so you already know I am bought to hit that church up when we had a meeting thing for the younger kids, me being 15. At the end of church when my mom comes to pick me up, and once I am in the car she doesn't even waste time, she just says, "Why do you have a girlfriend?" And me not wanting her to know about her because she's white and my parents are very racist and only want me to date kids my race, says no, and then the whole thing basically escalated and my mom said you aren't allowed to text her again and you have to tell her you're breaking up with her, and she wasn't even fucking joking. So she watched me tell my girlfriend that I can't date her anymore, and the next day at school she walked up to me, black bags under her eyes, tears still wet on her face, why we had to break up, and then she started bawling her eyes out at me and I was just about ready to cry too because I hate seeing her cry, so I cleared up what happened with her and she had the happiest look on her face I have ever seen, and she started hugging me and crying tears of happiness and begged me never to leave her, which I didn't intend to. TLDR, my mom reads through my texts and forces me to destroy happy relationship with my GF who cries at school. Thank you. Next. So, I was watching some commentary videos of this subreddit and realized I had a perfect story to tell. In April last year, me and my family had decided to go to Pakistan to visit family. We rarely go since it's an 8-hour flight, it's a super hot country and tickets can be rather expensive. However, this particular time, my dad managed to find some plane tickets for business class which were relatively cheap and booked them. This was my and my siblings' first time traveling in business class, so needless to say we were pretty excited. We get to the airport check-in, go through security and chill in the business lounge until our flight. We were all in a good mood and were excited to see where we would be sitting on the plane. We were the first group to get on and we all sat in our seats, just talking amongst ourselves. After we were boarded, economy class then boarded. This is where the story gets a bit interesting. I was sat next to this woman and her child and she explained it was her kid's first time going to Pakistan, so she booked business class so they would have a comfortable flight, which I thought was sweet. Shortly after, a woman from economy, EP, walks through the curtains into business class and walks up to the lady, asking her why she is here. She told the woman what she told me and it clicked that they were family, so I pretended to ignore them. EP then walks up to one of the hostesses and asks if she can pay to be upgraded to business class. The hostess explained it wasn't possible and went back to her seat. I thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. About 5 hours through the flight, my brother needed the toilet. Both of my parents were asleep and I didn't fancy waking them up, so I took him myself. Even though he is old enough to go himself, he is autistic and so he needs help with the most basic things. It took quite a long while since my brother was pretty much faffing around and was acting up. By the time we came back, we found 2 little boys sitting in our seats. I asked them to move since I knew they weren't in business class. The business class section of the plane was small enough that you could basically see everyone who was sitting there. They refused to since they claimed their mother allowed them to sit here. Not wanting to kick them out myself, I explained the situation to a flight attendant who escorted them back to her parents. I got my brother sat back down with mum and I returned back to my seat, attempting to go to sleep. It was then that EP storms in, furious that her kids have been kicked out of business class. She stated that the seats were empty and that me and my brother had stolen their seats. When I explained that I had taken my brother to the bathroom and that they were in fact not empty, she just replied with, "Well, surely they can sit here for a bit. It's not harming anyone." The flight attendant tried to calm her down and get her to leave, but she wouldn't budge. "Why don't you sit with the rest of us?" she then shouted, clearly angry at the fact that she was not on the same level as us. At this point, my dad had woken up. He is a pretty grumpy guy when he is woken up rudely, and even more so if someone disrespects his family. He basically told EP to shut her mouth and called her crazy in Urdu, to which EP got offended and started cursing him out back in Urdu. My dad, not wanting to stoop to her level, just rolled his eyes and put in his headphones. After her meltdown, another flight attendant, this time a male, explains that they may have to stop the plane and make an emergency stop to kick her off the flight if she does not calm down. This seems to shut her up, and she goes back to her seat, sulking. Luckily nothing happened after that and we could enjoy the rest of the flight in peace. Also, turns out the woman I was sitting next to was EP's sister and was so apologetic to everyone for her sister's behavior. I couldn't imagine being sisters with someone like that. Thank you. Next. Am I the delusional one or is it my parents? Yelling at me the first thing in the morning because I made a mess out of my own room while doing our laundry. I was sitting out clothes by putting them on the bed. They thought of it as an eyesore and decided they haven't screamed at me enough. When it comes to them saying that I learned from the Canadian kids how to talk back, and me replying why did you bring me here instead of staying in China, they didn't really have an answer. So instead they opted to scream at the top of their lungs that I should die and that I deserve nothing. Me, a dirty ugly fat pig. Usually a girl my age would just walk and sit in their room. They had me cornered in the kitchen where I was making breakfast for them though. At this point I've spared you several minutes of our confrontation. I'm literally lying on the floor sobbing. Then I said if you want to hurt me so bad hit me. My father was ready to but my mother held him away. So I started hitting myself as a way to prove a point. It's cringy and stupid, but I did. Good for you he said.